Hey folks, I'm just leaving the gas station after CrossFit. I keep forgetting that if I ever have to come to this gas station, it's insanely slow to pump gas. It took me 6 minutes to pump 2 gallons. And I have to leave because I can't sit here and pump any more gas. It's going to be a shorter drive just because I'm getting home and then I have a drive to the office, so have a longer video. I'm just going to kind of catch up on things since I've been back at work after my little vacation. I think something that's top of mind for me is like, I don't want this to be like a rant, so I just want to be careful about how I talk. Sometimes, like, if something's top of mind and I'm passionate about it, I don't want it to come across like a rant. It's just something I want to talk about, and I don't. It's hard to like not because I'm not conversing with any other person, like to not just rant, right? So I want to talk about sort of the role as a middle manager in software engineering, and sort of some of the ongoing challenges that we kind of have to deal with. One sec, there's like the ramp is metered to get on the highway. Come on, man. The person in front of me is not going. You gotta go. Come on. Talked about this before. If you're trying to get onto a highway, you have to be going the speed of the cars on the highway. You can't merge in going slower. Okay, so middle management's kind of a weird spot. I think that sometimes people perceive it as like, oh, be so easy to be a manager because you just get to tell people what to do. And like, I would say if that's the philosophy around it, then that's like, if that's what you observe as like being a middle manager as, and I'm really sorry that you've been experiencing like really shitty middle managers. Being able to delegate things is of course part of it, but I see this happen with middle managers. I see this happen with tech leads where people are just like, oh, so-and-so do this, so-and-so do this. It's not just as easy as like picking people and then just like throwing work at them. So if this is your sort of perspective on it, then I'm sorry that that's kind of what you've been exposed to. Is a little bit more involved than that, but between like delegating work and ensuring that people can do work effectively, there's a lot of stuff that kind of comes up. And I think that the one thing I wanted to talk about is like reducing chaos, right? It sounds kind of funny, I guess, but okay, sorry, I just got clear. Speaking of reducing chaos, I just got some chaos reduced, which is nice. One of the things that we have to do as managers is like you kind of get shit from all directions, right? So you have stuff that comes from organizational leadership that may or may not be what you agree with. You have stuff that comes from your own direct management that may or may not be what you agree with. And then you also, I believe personally, if you're doing a good job as a middle manager, then you also need to make sure that you're hearing the team, right? Like, so things have to flow upwards as well. And then literally as a middle manager, you are in the middle of all of this. So you get stuff from all different directions. And I would say that like we have a responsibility as middle managers to reduce chaos for teams. So what I mean by this is like, In other conversations, other contexts, you'll hear about like, oh, like managers are keeping stuff from us, or we need to have a transparent culture where everything's shared, and different sort of perspectives or takes on this. And personally, I agree in having as transparent as a culture as possible. I want to promote transparency. I want to promote information sharing. But one of the consequences of this is like, without any filtering, it can become overwhelming. And if you don't agree, if you're not a middle manager and you're like, well, no, we should hear everything that's happening, I mean this, like, if I as a middle manager am being overwhelmed with information coming from all sorts of different directions, it would not be in my best interest to try and then pass it on to every single member of the team directly, because it will absolutely overwhelm them. It's introducing chaos. When there's too much information that's not necessarily relevant, it becomes chaos. If there are distractions like that are coming to me and someone's looking to me to try and go get that work done, I should not blindly just like cover my eyes and start doing the delegation thing where like, okay, so-and-so, you're up next. What is this? I don't know, but go do it. It's got to get done apparently. It's chaos. We need to be able to prioritize things that are coming through, and that involves both like tasks, so things that have to get done, and information. Now, on the information front, that doesn't mean that I sit there and I go, oh, this is top secret, I should not tell the team, or I need to withhold this from so-and-so because I want to keep it a secret. It's not about that. It's about like, if you lead by putting too much information out to people, they don't know what to do with it, and it becomes distracting. Right? I had this, I use an example, the project that I was working on for 5 months. I had one of my sub-teams, I kind of sheltered from the project. They were doing security work, and that's the highest priority for Microsoft. So I let them and like made sure that they could continue on that with priority. But that meant that the other project that was going on, they're aware of it. It's not a secret. The rest of the team is working on it. But I'm sheltering them from, like, they're not pulled into all the meetings for it. They're just not part of all of the conversations around it, unless it's like a team-wide update, right? A few minutes here and there. But some of those individuals would say, hey, like, how is that project going? Right? So they're curious, they're asking about it, and I'm not going to go, oh, like, don't worry, you don't have to think about that. No, if they're curious, I'm going to talk to them about it, but I'm not going to sort of like force feed them information where they're like, what do you want me to do with it? Because it's distracting from the work they're doing. Is the information available? Absolutely. If they ask about it, will I share? Absolutely. But if it's going to distract them from what they're doing, I'm personally not going to prioritize going out of my way to share that. Now, that's like the information front, lots to discuss there, but I think even on, or arguably more importantly, is on the task front. There is only so much time and so many people to get things done. And there is seemingly an infinite amount of work that we need to get through. All the time, every direction. The reality is that not every bit of work is a priority. And when we have many channels to bring that kind of work in front of the team, it becomes absolutely chaotic. And I want to give an example of this from way before Microsoft when I was at a startup. We used to try and do agile software development, and we meant it, right? Like, we were a startup. Did we know what we were doing? Absolutely not. But we said, hey, like, we want to try putting some of these things in place to help guide us. So, like, was it, perfect Scrum or perfect Kanban or like, absolutely not. But one of the things that we agreed was that we can only get through so much work in a sprint. Okay, we can only get through so much work in a sprint. So if someone's trying to introduce more work to the sprint, we don't want to say, oh, no, you're not allowed to. You found a really critical bug, too bad, you have to wait 2 weeks. No, like, if something comes up and it's truly a priority, we'll adjust, but we need to make sure that we can pull something out, right? Like, there's only so much capacity. So we had this kind of philosophy early on, and I think, I still agree with this today. There's only so much capacity. But what would happen is that if you didn't go through normal channels, so like if you weren't coming to the engineering managers or going directly to the product owner, ultimately the product owner, and sometimes that was the engineering manager, sometimes it was a direct product manager, if you weren't going to one of these individuals so that they could help coordinate the work within the team, like, things would start to fall apart. And what I mean is, like, we would have, sometimes we'd have salespeople coming over and talking to the developers and being like, hey, like, can you go do this for me? Can you get this done? And the developers wanting to do the right thing, like, I don't blame them. They're like, well, yeah, like, I could do that for you. Like, you're making it sound very urgent and a priority. Yeah, like, let me do that for you. And then what would happen is, like, they would do whatever, and then the sprint commitments would get missed, and we'd be like, well, what the hell? Like, this thing that we've been planning to do is just not getting done because why? Oh, well, so-and-so asked me to do this, and it's like, well, what? Like, when did that come up, right? And that's not a priority. And then they're like, well, they said it was. And it's like, yeah, because everyone has their own top priority. So we would have salespeople injecting things. We'd have, and I've talked about him before. I love him to death, even though we don't work together. The CTO would come over to developers and say, hey, like, go do this for me. And then, of course, it's the CTO. He's the founder of the company. Obviously, they're going to go do the work for him, right? And then what would happen? Oh, we missed sprint commitments. Well, I had to do this for him. And it's like, I get it, but it's introducing chaos. And then I even talked about one developer in particular in a video yesterday or something. Sorry, it wasn't yesterday. I was rewatching it to clip shorts, one of the ones I posted recently. And there's been many developers like this, but they go off the rails, and they'll either go refactor or go build other things that aren't part of the sprint commitments, and then we miss our sprint commitments. They've introduced chaos into the development process. So I'm just giving a bunch of different examples of, like, chaos being introduced. It's not that it's unrealistic, in my opinion, that we completely eliminate chaos, right? Chaos, it's going to come up. There's going to be stuff we don't plan for. There's going to be, not everything follows a rule perfectly. I'm not saying get it to zero and, like, that's realistic. I'm just saying we want to minimize that. As engineering managers, I believe it's our responsibility to minimize the chaos with our engineering team so that they can do their priorities effectively. So both information in terms of chaos and work streams in terms of chaos. But what that means, I want to tie this back to delegation, is that it is absolutely insufficient, and I would just argue lazy to say, here is a big list of stuff, and I'm just going to keep, like, you keep adding stuff to this list, I'm just going to keep delegating it to people. It's, in my opinion, that's just absolutely lazy, and kind of like just a bullshit approach. Like, it's not helpful. In my opinion, it introduces chaos because there is no prioritization that goes into it. If you're just constantly piling up work and it's not getting prioritized, there's things that need to be cut. Right? If you have a backlog of things to get done, you either cut things out that truly aren't important, or you have a prioritization system that allows them to drop all the way to the bottom where the unimportant things go. But constantly piling on things and trying to create urgency around them, I do not think is a strategy that works. And I feel like it's the role of managers to be able to help with that. Like, that's my responsibility. I expect that of my managers. If they don't have context, then we should talk about that. If I don't have context, I need to go ask more engineers about that, or other stakeholders. But if I have someone that comes to me and says, we need your team to do this, I don't just go, yep, roger that, and then top of the list, and whoever's next in line, go do it. I need to be able to balance those priorities against other things we have. And that might mean telling someone, hey, sorry, I understand that you have this request, but it's not happening for weeks. It's not happening for months. Like, we need to be able to do that. It's not just a matter of, yep, and then like telling people yes, and then hoping that there's enough capacity on the team to do it. It's a lot more involved than just simply slapping someone's name beside it and hoping. And I'm talking about this because we have a lot of things currently going on that I need to personally sit down and go through and say, like, look, this is not important. No, we should not do this. Someone wrote this 2 years ago and said it was important, and we've gone 2 years without it. Is it important? So I need to be able to have those tough conversations. But like, the reason I'm talking about this is like a couple things, right? I think I want to sort of expose that, like, being in a situation where you're getting information from multiple angles and asks from multiple angles, it's not trivial. But also just that there's more that goes into prioritizing work than just putting someone's name beside it. You need to be able to, in my opinion, the word I like using is ruthless. You need to be able to ruthlessly prioritize things. Because if it's not happening, you will be focused on not the most impactful work. Like, I'll say it a different way that's probably more straightforward. It's not like, being an effective engineering manager is not about keeping people busy. It's about getting people working effectively on the highest priority items. And then you can break down effectiveness as some some formula for like delivering business value, but also helping focus people on career growth as well. I think that these things need to be considered because you can't just have people working on like sustained highest priority business stuff if it has basically like super low engagement value for them. You can for a little bit, but if it's sustained and they're not engaged, like it all falls apart. So this is sort of I wanted to talk about this because it's top of mind for me. I basically have to start having hard conversations to be like, no. Like, I understand you want this done, but no. Or you want this done, no problem, but which of these other things do you not want done? Because that's the trade you're making. This is a strategy I had to use. I mentioned the CTO where I used to work. And you could, like I said, I'm not talking ill about him. I love him to death. I always remind people, like, I invited him to my wedding. Like, we don't work together, but you know, someone that I'll always really, really look up to. And we'd have to have this hard conversation where it's like, we should really do this. And he is the customer, right? Like, he was a police officer. We were a digital forensics company. He really understands, like, from the user perspective. So it's hard to tell him no. But what we'd have to do is say, instead of just being like, no, we're not doing that, no, we're not doing that, we'd say, look, we trust you. We trust that you think this is the highest priority, right? So let me put these other things in front of you. If what you're saying is true and you think that X is the highest priority, I just want to confirm with you, you're okay with not having Y or Z or A or B, right? Which one of these do you not want? At least in the short term. And sometimes that conversation would be like, oh, I didn't realize that we were doing those things. Like, now that I see them all laid out, yeah, those are the most important. Or sometimes it would be like a very obvious decision for him where he's like, oh, well, no, we don't have to go work on that. We should put this in instead. And this is like, sorry, lost my train of thought. This is like, being able to have that exercise, I think, is really valuable because, in my opinion, it's ruthlessly prioritizing. You have to say, like, something's getting cut. It's not just, oh, one more thing. It's, no, like, it's out. You want us to follow with it? Sure, no problem. But, like, that could be when we were doing sprints, that could be next sprint, that could be next release. It's not going to make it in this month's release. We did monthly releases then. Right? But you have to make hard decisions. It's not just piling in more work. And I think sometimes when you have those options stacked up in front of each other side by side, makes it a little bit more apparent. It's, like I said, it's lazy to be able to sit back and just say, oh, one more thing comes up here, you go do it. So-and-so knows the space, you go do it. Just because work is in a particular space and similar people are working in it because they're subject matter experts, doesn't mean that it doesn't become randomizing. If there's no theme to the work and it's just like seemingly random stuff in that space, like, in my opinion, that becomes very randomizing, even though it's related. Oh, buddy. Oh, my goodness. This kid, thank God look where I drive. This kid, I just watched him walk across the street slowly with his head down looking at his phone. Oh. Anyway, I'm at home. That's the mini rant for this morning. Meta points are, Engineering managers need to drive clarity and reduce chaos, and delegation can be done in a lazy way, but I think that just introduces chaos. So thanks for watching. See you next time.